Heureka by thelightbulb.ai, the Insights Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Heureka, the Insights podcast. We have someone very cool with us today. I met him almost about 6 to 9 months ago, and I was immediately impressed by his intuitive grasp of the entire business model and the way that the research industry is changing across different geographies. Please welcome Rajeev Aggarwal, partner and chief growth officer of That Fig Tree based out of Singapore. Also, the co-founding part of the co-founding team at Percept Tech AI that is building huge AI businesses that encompass technology and market research in one fascinatingly combination mix. And that's what he's here to talk about today. I think what all I would also love to bring up is, unlike a lot of people who come to us and converse with us on Eureka, we have someone who's a teacher at heart. So, Rajiv, you are also a faculty at the NUS Business School. And of course,
Yeah,
in your past, you've been with Kantar, Nielsen, and you've done a lot of work in market research. But it's very rare to find a practitioner who's also a teacher. How did that come about?
I think it just, Ritu, it's about sharing the knowledge. I just wanted to share the knowledge. And I think this is a little slightly because, frankly, I was not a very good student when I was a student in a conventional sense. Like I didn't get top grades or, I did not really study very hard. But but when I started working, I enjoyed working more than I enjoyed studying. I mean, I'll be honest with you here. And the reason I liked about working was hands-on experience and learning from the real situations and managing and dealing the real situations. So I thought that I want to take that to the classroom. And then that's where I structured a course around that, my real experience and try to do that. So the I try to do a course in a way that where I would learn it, I would want to learn it myself. If I take the clock 20 years, 25 years backwards, that's how I would want to learn, where, there are some practical experiences, there are some industry people coming. Imagine, I think and I'm older to you, Ritu. I mean, in like, for example, I did my graduation in 93, 94, then I did my postgrad in 2000. I studied economics and I haven't had any exposure. I haven't had anybody coming from industry, a chief economist with a Deutsche Bank or chief economist with a DBS Bank or SBI coming and talking about economics, how that person is using economics. Imagine the difference would that make to me that time, in terms of my love for the discipline, in terms of, and that never happened. And, those were the times, different times also. And these days, again, it's happening quite a lot. But I think that was my thing, talk about myself, get people in. And uh, teaching is a different profession altogether, so I have a lot of learning. I'm a beginner there. Although in market research profession, been doing quite a bit, but in terms of teaching, I'm new. And I think it has its own learning curve. It's not that, you start and you become fantastic at it. I think there's a learning curve there. Yeah.
You're absolutely right in terms of us becoming learners all over again. It's very ironic.
Yeah.
You have learners on that side and you're a learner yourself. But
Yeah.
before we go there, tell me about your progression. How did you start? How did you get into market research? Did you always want to be in research?
Mm.
What led to it?
So I think, look, I like to keep things honest, and that's the reason I moved to a startup where I can be more honest with friends. And I never ever wanted to become a researcher. I never dreamed of it. Never dreamt of it. So my first job was a journalist. I was a CNBC reporter in India, and I was covering stock markets. And I was in Mumbai, based in Mumbai. Then I was in Delhi, covering finance ministry. I like interviewed a lot of these people, like Rahul Bajaj were alive that time. Bajaj Motors head, right? I have long interviews with him. I had long chats with even Kumar Mangalam Birla on Grasim takeover. It is Birla House. So that was my job, but then I got very disappointed with a lot of things in India, and I wanted to leave the country. And that's where I came to NUS, National University of Singapore, to do my master's, and I did economics. And after that, when I was looking for the job, journalism was not an option in Singapore. Singapore is not a very typical journalist place. It's not like India or US where there's a freedom and too much freedom sometimes. Like how the media's people end up becoming devils, especially in India. By spreading all kind of lies. So yeah, in a way, they have too much power. So, but the Singapore didn't feel like a fascinating place for me to do journalism, and then that's where I got into market research, and I started working on it. It happened by chance, but I I kind of I started liking, like any job, you don't like 100% ever. I mean, at least I didn't like 100%. Some parts of it I liked more than others. I liked the clients part a lot more, where I was exposed to clients, where I was trying to see how the client business is working from agency side. That kind of was a very enriching experience for me, because I could see a HSBC or a Unilever, or how they're thinking, and I could see that how what I'm doing is making some difference to them. And so that kept me going. And then I think it's a usual thing. Uh, yeah, so it just became, and then uh, yeah, the job gave a kind of a thing of intellectual stimulation in the form of research. It gave some entrepreneurship stimulation in the form of clients or sales, and then you end up developing friends, at a place, and you like going to office. So it just kept going on, and then it offered some challenges here and there. Yeah.
Absolutely interesting. So what led from all of this to your joining? Because you had a very celebrated career. You were with Kantar, you were heading the business. And what suddenly led you to break away and join the Fig Tree and launch Percept Tech? I mean,
So
what was thinking around that?
yeah, look, I think the thing was there was a lot of restructuring happening in the company also, and so the stability was less, and I was always looking for uh, some of this just I had in me that I want to build something, and somewhere where I have a say, and somewhere I feel independent, and uh, and like the companies, when they are driven with the objective, with the keeping clients in their mind, they're very appealing to me. But when they just become hardcore place of numbers, and the fun goes away. And I'm not saying that's very wrong or anything, and that's how a lot of the private equity companies are coming and acquiring the companies. There's difference between venture capitalists and private equity, right? I'm assuming, and but the way they're coming, they kind of are taking a donkey and trying to make it a horse and sell it, and in that process, it's a very painful process. So I think there were so many other circumstances which fall in place, and where the entrepreneurship kind of a route was opened. So when I joined that factory, I joined with friends who I trust, who people have with very good, value system, and highly capable research heads. And then I could kind of thought that I could contribute with them. I think there was a kind of a synergy. They loved research, the craft of it, and I did not love the craft as much as they did. I liked it. I loved client and sales more than them. They liked it, but they didn't love it. But I loved it. So there are a few things they like, but I love. There are few things I like and but they love. So I thought there is and the value system I found is common. We probably can work, because it's going to be tough, right? Sometimes the cash flow situation, sometimes revenue situation, sometimes this. So if you're far apart in your value system, it may not work. And so people who can think about you even the times are tough. I think that was my criteria, and so I started working with them. And I had absolutely no clue that we'll end up founding another company. But over a period of time, I kind of developing this hypothesis or thinking in my head that people are more important than anything else. And if you are with the right people, right things will happen. And if you're with the wrong people, then wrong things will happen. You may want to make things right, but eventually wrong things will happen because there's inbuilt mechanism within people, right? And so when I thought I'm joining the right people, I thought that something right will happen, and then suddenly one day they said that they have this idea, and rather than commission or salary or whatever, why don't you become a partner? And I think it was good, and so it was all like a bunch of coincidences, but the faith was that you're working with people who kind of believe in what they're doing, they're nice, and and they're giving. So that's how it started.
Very nice. And how is the reception now for technology in the market research market? This kind of, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but
No,
how are you seeing the reception for technology-led initiatives in a very traditional world of market research?
so you see the thing, there is a lot of factors at play, Ritu, and you are an entrepreneur yourself, right? And you're selling things, and I'm trying to sell things, and we all want more business. Uh, but there's there's an adoption curve. There's an adoption curve, and there is a say do gap. You know, it's like you asking me, Rajiv, are is climate important to you? And I'll say absolutely, climate is important. But then you asked me, what do you do for climate, Rajiv? I said, I don't. So I think that the same problem is everywhere, even the research world, and I'm upfront about it. I mean, you go to the clients and you ask them, what's your number one thing? Or you want to be the technology leader. But saying is not enough. The doing part is the most important part, because say to do when you want to switch. Everybody wants change to happen just like this. But it doesn't happen like that. Somebody has to suffer, and you take that pain for that change to happen. So I think the and like for funding for Percept.ai, we've been talking to so many VCs, and you're more experienced, Ritu, in that, and more successful in case of getting funds for your startup. But many of the VCs are telling us that they are looking at this industry, but it's a very sleepy industry, market research industry, and they think that this industry has been somehow very uh, it's been a bit averse to the fast changes. The trackers which Kantar or Nielsen was doing years ago, and they're doing with the same clients now, and it's a repeatable business for them. And you go to clients, they will complain, oh, we're not happy with this, things are not changing, but they'll still keep going working with them. So it's a bit like the rotten marriage. Then you want to keep going, you don't want to change because you're afraid of change. So to cut it short, the things are getting better. Clients are There are some clients who are really on technology front, you're very active, they want to get the technology in their business very fast. But there are some who don't do so. And at the same time, I would say supply side also, which kind of pertains to you or me. I mean, are we bringing the right product? Are we bringing the cutting edge product? Uh, but at the same time, the product, how much investment is going on, that depends. Like, for example, if you look at OpenAI, right? And if you look at OpenAI balance sheet, they're kind of a few billion-dollar companies, but they are still a few billion-dollar losses. So the amount of funds they're sitting in. Now, whether the market research companies will get that kind of funds, to try, and that is the. So I think it's a both demand and supply situation, and there is no easy answer to it. But I think but then it all goes back to the mindset which people in this industry have. I think this industry probably attracts people who are a little bit more safe, and who kind of who are a bit risk averse. I think it's a bit sweeping statement, and a lot of people may not like it. But imagine you go to any market research office, you'll find how many people have sales there. You can count one, two. Okay, I'm happy sitting here. Give me the report. I'll do the report. Now, so I think the type of industry is also like that. So it's an industry which has been disrupted, but the pace of disruption has been exceedingly slow, I would say, or extraordinarily slow. I mean, you look at I mean, we haven't seen somebody becoming unicorn, like as a crowd strike the cybersecurity firm has become, or as a Zscaler which has become. We haven't seen a unicorn emerging like that. So yeah, so as I said, adoption is still an issue. It's slow. People are they say that they want to be less purist, but making that shift from purist to less purist is not that easy. So all those factors, I face a lot of those things, and I'm not surprised about it. I just want to see that how can we do to bridge that gap, and somebody has to take uh, that step ahead to make things happen. That's how I look at it. But yeah, sometimes you feel that what the hell.
No, I feel you, and I think you have a very interesting point that the nature of the industry is very non-salesy and very
Hmm.
non it's going to sound rude, but non-efficiency oriented. Because if you look at
No,
research
no,
folks,
yeah,
right, they see themselves as being the counterpoint to business. And I think you used a beautiful word of a purist. They see themselves as disconnected from business motives while assisting the business process. So they see themselves as driven by an insight or a human truth, or and wanting to discover human behavior and not being driven by revenue or numbers, which is what they are ultimately trying to impact. So it's a bit of a dichotomy in my head.
yeah. I think it's about a balance, Ritu. And I haven't been able to find that balance myself. Why do I blame them? Because I'm more on client sales, and I want to get things fast. I want to move fast, do this, move next. But there are people who want to kind of perfect their craft. They love it, and they it's like a trophy. They want to build some things which they are, because I think it's an inner satisfaction they get. That's why they got into this business,
Yes. Yes.
because they love doing that. And if you see 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was no need to sell. The business just came in, and there was no disruption. There is survey business, this, that, everybody has to do, and you have a seat on table, you just go and do. And people loved working overnight, late night. They thought this way of researchers. And but I always think, I always believed that it's a means to an end. And you can love it or you can hate it, but if you're not able to make a difference to the business, or add something to the bottom line, or move a needle, then I think you're not doing a Nobel job, or you're not taking things forward. So I think that's my view. And but I think people there are people who are hugely successful, but they think differently. So it doesn't matter.
I think you're right. It's a view, and we can debate it on ad nauseum. But tell me a
Mhm.
little bit more about now you've been an active client facing resource. Now you're a partner at the Fig Tree. You're running a technology startup. What does a typical day look like for you? Is it frantic? Is it calm, measured? Do you actually have you found that famed work-life balance?
So I don't believe in balance, Ritu. I never believed in it. I mean, look, I mean, even when I was a new research executive or anything, I did never believed in the balance. Or, there were people who will go to office at 9, finish at 6. Then at 6, something else will start. Then 8, something else will start, and 10, sleep will start. Now, I understand about the sleep because it's the most important part. At the end of the day, you have to call it a day, right? Now everything's gone. The concept which I kind of believe, and which has appealed to me always, is work-life integration rather than work-life balance. Because and it's more so as when you are entrepreneur, or that kind of gels in. There is no balance. I mean, I can't say no to things when they're needed to be done. When they're needed to be done, they needed to be done. And that's my nature also. I mean, I kind of so the work-life balance is what I don't believe in. Maybe people think of it differently, but I don't see a point where you work from 9 to 6, and from 6 you don't work. I don't think like that. I mean, at times I'm working on weekends also, and I work 3 hours on a weekend. But there are days on a day I'll work only 5 hours. I'll just chill out rest of the time, and but I'll kind of, so over a period of time, I'll make sure I'm doing my things, trying to exceed expectations, trying to do good for business over a period of time. But it doesn't have to be in a given amount of time. Now that's my way of working.
And compartmentalized.
Yeah, that's not my life. That's not my nature. And a lot of people have that nature where they keep things compartmentalized, and they can do that. It's so at the end of the day, it's not work-life balance or work-life integration. It's what you want, how you want to deal with it, what makes you at peace. For me, work-life balance doesn't work the way it's defined. Now, whether the day is difficult or day is uh, busy, or I'm basically not a very calm person by nature.
It
So
look very calm, which is very dichotomous. You have such a calm, sane demeanor.
no,
You're not calm?
no.
No?
No. I mean, I'm calm in the sense that uh, I mean, I'm impatient. I'm very impatient. If you ask my business partners, they don't like me. They say that Rajiv, you really need to cool down. You need to develop some faith. Things will happen. They will happen. You don't have to do them all the time. They will happen. They will happen by their own. Universe has a way of doing it. But by nature, I'm very impatient, and I want to get over things, do things fast, and so for me, uh, days I won't say it's busy or it is what it is. Some days there are more meetings, some days there are less meetings, and but what I wake up with the idea of meeting new people, developing partnerships, exploring possibilities, creating possibilities, thinking about possibilities. I think that is thinking about dealing with that unknown. It's very stressful also sometimes, but I think that keeps me going also because there is no end to it, right? It's an infinite game. So the concept of finite game and infinite game. Finite game is that you finish it and it's done, dusted. But infinite game is that it never gets over. You are a player in the game, and then you pass on the ball, and somebody else becomes a player. So my thinking is a lot on that. It's an infinite game we are playing, so just keep playing. And it's just that the game is divided into days, hours, and life. But if you believe in the ancient philosophy, it's eternal, right? It keeps going on. You're there, you're not there, you're alive, you're taking it. So I think for me, it is like that. But I wake up with ideas of not about what idea of doing great research. I don't. I wake up with the idea of possibilities, about exploring options, living some probabilities. Those are the things.
Nice, nice. And now that you've spent a, over a couple of decades in this industry and you've
Mm.
seen it grow through arcs, you've seen it across markets, do you feel that there is a shift in the way that the industry itself is behaving? It could be technology, it could be AI, it could be just newer ways of thinking. It could be the mix or the focus of business on, research. What are some of the most interesting trends that you're seeing the world of market research undergoing right now? Things that have caught your eye.
So I think the if you ask me, uh, there is certain happiness in me about the industry or certain excitement, but at the same time there is certain unhappiness or sadness also about the way things are happening. For example, I'm quite happy or about the fact that we move towards modern methodology. We look at towards the AI kind of a thing. Uh, Artificial intelligence and how do we embed this in the system and other stuff. So I think that is a good thing. One bigger thing which I'm even more pleased about and which is not happening very actively is about emotions. So a lot of surveys, a lot of things, and I grew up on them based on the lack of emotions, rational responses, thinking of human being a rational decision maker while they are not, right. And after Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize, and a lot of focus is coming on behavioral science and a lot of focus is coming on emotions, but it's not there yet at all. It's not there yet at all. The decision making is still not. The consumer research is not doesn't really cater to that at a scale. You know, like all the tracking work we do, that's the most scalable work, right? Brand tracking. Now, it's very kind of a claimed responses, right? So the emotional work or the neuro work or which can be the real driver of decision making is not gone scalable yet, and nobody has done it. Some people have tried to do it, but it's very expensive and all that. So I think the idea, the thinking of that happening is kind of fascinates me. But how will that happen is also a big question, because uh, you see, if you look back 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we had three companies which were leading the pack, right? Nielsen, Kantar, Ipsos, and it's still same.
Correct.
If you go 3 decades, Kantar in some other form, TNS, Mill Brown, these are the companies, the same institution, same species, what I would say was there. So in 3 decades, we have this. Now, if you go back and look at the technology world, Google has come in last 25 years. There was no Google, but nothing has come in our world, right? So I think it's maybe it's not that high stake a game or whatever. Sometimes I think, but what saddens me is that things are not changing at pace enough, you know, that they should change. There is no incumbent, there is no challenger who has come in, including me or including us, who has come and given an open challenge and kind of toppled the leadership of the existing players, legacy players who are not innovating but renovating. You know, nothing has happened, and I think clients are also not open to it somehow. It's, as I said, it's always demand and supply issue. So I do not know what's the way forward to it. But as I said, that the the development in AI space is pretty exciting. We are also doing it, and it makes things easy, it makes things faster, it makes things better. But at the same time, are we doing things right is also very important. Where I think about the emotional decision making, the role of emotions, is it being coming to the central of the decision making, and are we developing enough tool accordingly, or are we having enough thinking around that? And at the same time, what I'm seeing is the industry has stopped growing. If you look at the growth rate of a Nielsen or a Kantar or even traditional boutique companies, it's not that high as it used to be 10 years. The kind of living is becoming difficult with the industry, the bonuses, pay packages, all that is becoming difficult also. So at one side, we have this industry's growth rate going down. On the second side, we need to do something right. We need to reinvent the industry, both by the concept and by the technology. And then we are facing in a declining environment, the business environment. The money is possibly moving somewhere else, maybe to the analytics space or to some other space. I don't know. I don't have a lot of visibility on that. So I think it's a bit of a chess game. There are a few things here and there. We got to think. We got to think. Nobody has the future or crystal ball, but I think all we can do is what we think is right, right for the environment, right for the business, right for us. We do that and see what happens.
I think you have a very, very interesting point, which is the decline of insights and the rise of analytics. They're juxtaposed primarily because if you look at where the money in the market is going, it's moving to methods or channels that are measurable, right? A decade ago, the percentage of spends on digital ad spends in a company's media budget were 2 to 5%. When I used to be in Airtel, which was almost a decade ago, actually almost 15 years ago, our and we used to have a 900 crore media budget. Our digital spends were 2% of that budget, and the remaining 98% were channels of advertising and marketing that were not easily measurable, that did not have metrics of delivery around them. Today, that proportion, and I was just speaking to somebody from Unilever last week, and they were saying increasingly we are at about 40% of our spends is on digital metrics or digital platforms, because the buying behavior of the consumer has shifted. But these platforms come with inbuilt analytics and metrics, which means I don't need to spend on insights. I know exactly what the customer is doing there. So if our industry, market research, is going to depend on the insights aspect for non-measurable channels, that pie is rapidly shrinking.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Unless we use technology to tie together
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two
yeah.
behaviors that customers are showing on e-commerce sites and other
Exactly.
digital channels,
Yeah.
this is just going to shrink away to absolutely nothing. And I
And
don't
that's
think a couple
happening,
of
and
decades
that
away.
is that is why that we've started with Percept also. There's a business commercial angle to this also. But these are disturbing trends also sometimes. Now, I do not know whether that's how the world is changing, because I went to an event, a regional economic conference, and I met one very senior marketing director who kind of were taking a break, and she was saying that her job was becoming very boring because all she was doing is signing on the campaigns, that this campaign, that campaign, and there are so many campaigns happening. So and she says that she really misses those days of big ideas, when she will sit with her ad agency and she will think of an idea that which is going to big idea, one idea which will change and which will do. And now it is undue focus on performance marketing, which you're talking about, and that uh, performance marketing will end up going to performance marketing is now again, is what we're talking about, Ritu. So I think the good old marketing where we talked about ads, where we talked about big ideas, campaign ideas, and even for my teaching, I was looking for some really recent experiences, and I'm hard to find. I was still talking about a Dove and a Coca-Cola, all these iconic brands, and so I don't know. There is change. I sometimes, whether it's we who are having difficult, whether our children will have difficulty accepting it. I don't see them having any difficulty accepting it because they're born in it.
Correct.
But I don't know what's going to happen. Seriously, I don't know. And it's disturbing. It's sometimes it's exciting, but it's disturbing also.
No, I agree with you. I think the world order is changing. I think we've seen more change in the last 20 years than I think the last 50 years before us saw. But again, that's just a perception thing. I'm sure every every generation complains about that. Awesome. So we've had an awesome conversation, and since we have very little time left, I would love to perhaps dwell on a few of the distillations from your long career in market research, and
Hmm.
talk to two specific groups of people who might be watching this or listening into this podcast.
Sure.
One is for people who have just entered the market research domain and are looking to build a career in insights. What is something that you would like to share with them that might help them make the most of their experience? Tips, hacks, things you wish somebody had told you when you were starting out about market research.
I think it's look, at the end of the day, they have to realize one thing, or everybody has to realize, and Ritu, it applies to us at each stage of our life, that everybody has its own journey. So I think the focus they have to do is running their own race, their own journey, and ask a lot of questions to themselves about what they want to do, why they want to do, and these are general bigger topics which should govern part of the career, and it's not an end. In terms of specifically market research, I think uh, now I can say the curiosity is the most important thing I've seen. If you're curious, then you will do well. That there is no, because you need some inner hunger, right? Now inner hunger, as I said, that you can divide. For sales, got to have inner hunger to win. If a salesperson doesn't like the sound of the money, it's it's difficult to succeed as a salesperson. Now you probably could, but not you're a Gandhi or Mandela, you're not, right? And in terms of research, if you really want to be in research world, you got to write the curiosity. You got to be curious. You got to be really curious. And if you have a lot of questions, so the only thing, one or two advice which I want to leave, two advice which I want to leave, and this applies whether you are selling or whether you are doing or whether you're doing both, is that try to develop a multidisciplinary thinking. That is, you think from a for on a problem first from a beginner's mind. That is from a fresh perspective, from a fresh things. Don't try to kind of take one solution and dump it over. Problem, each problem is unique. So think of it from a beginner's mind, and think wide, not just one discipline or two discipline. I mean, I'm not a personally, I think that if you read history, if you read philosophy, if you read psychology, if you read physics, if you read maths, you will think about a problem in a far more holistic manner than you will think about just from one possible angle. So multidisciplinary thinking is very important, where you bring fuse several disciplines and bring thinking together. Now, if you can't do that, and nobody can do that perfectly, then build a team which is multidisciplinary. right? And because get a physics person in your team or get a social science person in your team, and then like bring a, what do you call, it's like a maestro, right? Become a maestro, manage everything, create an orchestra. So that is, I think, if you can't do it, then get in a situation where you do. And second thing which I find is objectivity and courage. So it's a rare thing, right? And the numbers, if I give you a glass which is half glass full and half glass empty, you can spin it anyway. You can say it's half glass full and you can say half glass empty, and nobody can do anything because both are truth, right? But then that's where the courage comes, to see half glass full and half glass empty and relating it to a particular situation you are in or a business problem you are solving. So I think that courage to speak your mind while remaining objective and while thinking about the business objectives, and not uh, getting yourself burdened by the expectations or willingness to make somebody happy and appease somebody. I think those are a couple of important things, in my view, which people should look out for.
Awesome. Now, that's for people who are still relatively young. Or would you say the same principles apply to anyone at any stage?
See, I think I believe it's any stage, because multidisciplinary thinking is evolving, right? For example, there was always laws of physics were there, right? But there was no chat GPT earlier, right? So you go to learn ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT comes Claude, and then with Claude comes Grok 2, which is Elon Musk's things, and then come other, then comes. So I think if you have this learner mindset, you will keep exploring these things, and you'll end up becoming so multidisciplinary. Is like it's a process. It can't stop, because disciplines are changing or disciplines are evolving, right? And the objectivity is the second thing. Is objectivity is rare in the sense that uh, that you know as you grow up, the stress pressure you face is different, right? When you're a child, there is no pressure, so you laugh, right? You're objective without problems. But when you when you grow up, your objectivity can become a slave to bosses keeping happy or clients keeping happy. More you become that, more you get into that. So it's a constant muscle building, mental muscle building, which you need to do, and where you have to kind of reflect yourself and say that, no, this is important, this is who I am, this is how I want to live my life, and if there is a cost with it, I will give that cost. The problem is that we want to do something, but we don't want to give the cost. The cost could be a promotion, cost could be not getting that salary hike, cost could be offending a big client. I think just go and do it. That is, I mean, I do it a lot more than people should do. But and I have never cared about career in my life. I can tell you that I've never ever cared about career in my life. I wanted to get promoted, I want to get more money, but it never came to my mind that this is important for my career, this is important for this. I just did what was right. I tried to do.
And I think that's all any of us can do. We can try to do what we feel is right in a given circumstance,
No, I
even
think a lot of people have this laundry list of this is good for career. Like you have to smile at this point, you have to wear this shirt. I had a line manager who tell me that you should wear good clothes, you should come across well, you should look more polished than you are, and then I said that this is the time to leave this company.
when I'm getting wardrobe advice, this is the time to leave.
Not out there to get this.
I
So
feel you. Oh.
so yeah, I think, look, as I said, at the end of the day, you can hear me, or but everybody is there. Everybody has to decide for themselves and have their own journey.
No, but I think that's just the right note to leave at this point, because I think, Rajiv, the one thing that we see as we're growing older is the people who truly are successful, not by metrics of wealth and not by metrics of advancement, but people who have genuinely made a difference to the people around them in their careers, in their organizations, are people who are authentic, who are true to
Yeah.
what they believe, right? And that's at the heart of what you're saying is exactly that. Be objective, be courageous, be you, do what
Yeah.
feels right. That frame of reference may change at various points in your life, but being authentic and being courageous, I think, is
Yeah. It's
everybody's
very
cup.
important.
It's very, very hard to do. And as as a fellow salesperson, uh, I feel the struggle because you're under pressure to bring in revenue,
Yeah.
and you and your views will impact that revenue. So sometimes these can be tricky conversations, and perception building can be very hard. But I think these are, like you said, these are the basics that if we can master.
I think one thing, yeah, I think Ritu, one thing which I've seen is that the existing norms are are not always to be followed because existing norms are it's everybody kind of evolves, and you got to question. That's where I think curiosity will help you questioning that, because some of them are like 90% of them, they I hope they weren't told to me earlier, because they don't mean anything. They don't mean anything. They aren't true. They aren't true. You know. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rajiv. As always, it was an absolute pleasure to connect with you. I'm sure
Thanks.
everybody who watches this podcast episode or even listens in will really appreciate some of the points you've made. And can you just quickly tell the people where they can find you, connect with you if they're looking for you?
So I think LinkedIn is a good place. I'm pretty active, and the company's website, That Factory, Percept. We have a YouTube channel as well at That Factory, Beginner's Mind at That Factory. You can find me. I have my personal YouTube channel, which has been dormant for some time, called Building Wealth with Rajiv. They can find me there. So yeah, I'm a social media junkie, so it's not hard to find me.
And he's very responsive on all channels and on WhatsApp. So once you connect with him, I can promise you that he will always be there to help and guide you, even if there are no business objectives involved. And I am a personal witness to that. And I have to
Yeah.
thank you, Rajiv. You have been so helpful at so many junctures with advice and guidance. And I would
Uh,
really encourage people who want to understand more about market research and understand the Southeast Asia market to reach out to Rajiv. There is no better guide.
Thank you so much. I am surprised you think so highly of me, but thank you.
Oh, we only call coolest people on our show.
Okay.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Rajiv. You
Take
have a
care.
great day.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Heureka by thelightbulb.ai, the Insights Podcast.